How do you come up with a story idea or any idea at all? But specifically for writers, how do you come up with an idea of what you're going to write about? I know for me, it kind of comes and goes. It's either, I have a million ideas and they're all coming at me full force, or it's a total blank and the thought of writing suddenly seems more intimidating than it normally does. Does that mean all of a sudden I'm not a good writer anymore? I don't think that's true. I think that's natural for everyone. But how do we get our mojo back? How do we get our ideas flowing again? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, how I get me excited to create something specifically through writing. Writing a story, whether it's a screenplay or a novel or a short story or lyrics for a song or whatever it is, can be a lot of fun, but I think it can also be really intimidating. And if you're anything like me, a lot of times the hardest part is knowing what your first step is. Where should this idea come from? How do I know if it's a good idea? How do I know if it has any legs? And what happens when my mind is just blank and I have writer's block? I think a lot of my creative productivity is changing your mindset and placing yourself in a creative mindset is determined by the thoughts, ideas, the input that I get, like what I surround myself with and what I engage in. So, similar to how people say that you become like your five closest friends or like the company that you keep, you also become like the stimulus you give your brain. This probably isn't new information. You probably get a million lectures about how you shouldn't rot your brain with scrolling through social media and stuff. But the cool thing is that not only can this work in a negative way, it can also work in a positive way too. What this looks like for me is in my downtime, I make it a point to like actively search out YouTube videos on writing. And since you're here watching this, I'm guessing you kind of do the same thing too. But next time you're like watching a YouTube video or listening to a podcast or reading an article about, say, how to write a killer hook for your story, pay attention because I bet your brain is going to come up with ideas on how you would actually go about implementing the tips and techniques that you're giving you. Most of our brains are naturally wired to make connections. So if you're learning or rehashing these different writing mechanics and skills and techniques, there's a good chance that you're going to get, even if it's on a subconscious level, some sort of spark of an idea. When this happens, it's important to do the next step, which is to write it down. I think we have a lot more ideas flowing through our head than we realize. And maybe we think they're just a bad idea or they're not enough to actually write something off of. But I think it's worth noting down even the seemingly inconsequential ideas because it, one, reinforces your brain that you actually are coming up with ideas. And two, even if they're small, you can actually work them and develop them into bigger ideas that you do want to write about. Also, it's good practice to always have something to write your notes down on, whether it's like a little notebook that you carry in your back pocket, or a lot of us are going to use our phones, like on the Notes app. Or sometimes, if I'm just like kind of trying to get it out really quickly, I will do a voice recording. That way, it's just I say what I'm thinking and I can move on with my day. So, getting inspired for ideas might come easier to you if you're actively seeking out that writing headspace or that creative headspace. But you can get a lot of ideas when you're in a more passively creative headspace too. There's so much inspiration that we can get just from the world around us, basically through osmosis, if we keep a creative mindset. Now, trust me, I know easier said than done, but I think there's a few things that you can practice that will help get you into that mindset. At least it does for me. Firstly, is identifying as a creative person or a writer or whatever that thing is, that identity that you can adorn yourself in that kind of reinforces the fact that, like, hey, you are kind of good at this. Like, you are a writer, you are a creative person, you got this. It might be a struggle right now, but that doesn't mean it's gonna be a struggle forever, you know? So, as I'm going about the world, I like to think in this mindset of like, I am such a creative person. I get ideas from everywhere. It's kind of like that like affirmation type beat, but it's more so by identifying yourself as a creative person, you're changing the lens with which you look at the world. You can adopt a more curious mindset. Curious in the context of being creative. So, say your neighbors across the street are in a heated argument, right? Now, first of all, none of your business, don't be a snoop. But, I mean, sometimes you just can't help but hear things, right? So, as you're walking to your car, you hear, Mama, you make me so mad because. All right, don't linger, don't, be a nosy Nancy or whatever the word is. But when you get in your car, you could stop and think, like, I'm a curious person, I'm a creative person. What kind of story could I have gotten from this interaction between these two people?
And that's how you develop little seeds of ideas into something bigger. You ask questions about it, especially what if questions.
Let's say they're two women in their 20s. What if these two women are roommates? What if these two women are sisters who are roommates and they, have um been best friends their whole life, and now all of a sudden one of them wants to go out and kind of get more independence in their life, and because they want more independence, the other sister feels like they're being left behind, so they're getting in this heated argument. Their lives are obviously intertwined, they're living together, they have the same family, but maybe it's the struggle of identity. One sister might be going out to go get this independent experience, but the other sister really identifies, part of her identity is being a sister to this other person. Maybe she's the type of person who will go around saying, me and my sister are so close, we're inseparable, da 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 da. And now that her sister is trying to find independence, her identity is being threatened. All right, I don't know these people that were arguing. All I know was the fact that they were in a conflict, but because of that, I could ask questions about things. I can say, who are these people to each other? Why are they arguing? And in asking questions, I kind of get to answer them in any way I want. And I can change my answers too. Maybe they're not sisters. Maybe they are in competition with each other. Maybe one is a good friend of the other one and she sees her making poor decisions and she just loves her so much that she wants the best for her and she's not willing to just ignore the self-destructive behavior. I don't know these people. There's 1,000 different directions that this can go in. But you can see how this one interaction in life, I have like 6 ideas right now.
If you're struggling to come up with questions to ask, it can be helpful to have them on hand. So here are a few that I've come up with. Then from there, you can even ask questions about the questions and keep developing it further. Whatever your story ideas are about that you're searching for or finding, whether it be about the characters, the plot, the setting, or the world, any aspect of it, you can use the question asking method. That's going to help you develop your idea. The more you do this, the better you're going to get, right? Practice makes perfect. And even if you're not going to use the ideas that you come up with and you note down, you can, one, do it for practice, which is always going to be good, kind of keeping that muscle alive. And then also, you can change the specific idea a little bit to match something that you are working on or that you want to work on. So, say your idea comes from two women arguing in the street, or you ask yourself, why are they arguing? You come up with the answer that one of them wants to go off on a great adventure and the other one doesn't want to be separated from them. Okay, that's cool. Maybe you don't want to write a story about two sisters. Maybe you want to write a story about space pirates and one of them wants to go off and be, an admiral of their own fleet and do space piracy over here, and the other person just doesn't want that. They don't want to be separated. Those are two different stories about, like, what I think we said, sisters arguing versus space pirates arguing. Is going to be a really different type of story if you write about each of those, but you can still evolve the ideas that you get and pick pieces from different ideas that you've developed into whatever project you want to work on. So, if you're struggling to come up with ideas, I hope you try this out and it really helps you. If it does, make sure to leave a comment down below. I personally really love writing, so it's something that I'm going to be working on a lot more. If you want to come check that out, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you see when I come out with new videos. And if you like the video, like the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace!